Between 2001 and 2003, 7 hikers vanished on the remote slopes of Mount Shironuma. When their bodies were eventually recovered, the official autopsy reports cited sudden winter storms and hypothermia. The local police closed the cases, logging them as tragic natural accidents. 2 decades later, a graduate student in forensic anthropology named Aiko Yanase began feeding those old police reports into modern geographic modeling software. She discovered an anomaly in the Ada and submitted a formal request to the Nagano Prefectural Police for the unredacted autopsy files. Days later, her apartment was found unlocked and empty. She left behind a single notebook filled with erratic, heavily pressed handwriting. Aiko's disappearance turned a series of settled accidents into an active, escalating mystery. The danger on the mountain had suddenly followed the researcher home. Aiko's notebook contained a complete mapping of the original recovery sites. When she cross-referenced the coordinates against documented wind patterns and avalanche risks, the locations of the bodies defied the physics of a freezing mountain. Look at this 3D topographic map tracking the 4th victim. The data proves she died of exposure during a storm that dumped 70 centimeters of snow, yet search teams recovered her body at a higher elevation than her starting point. She would have had to hike uphill through waist-deep snow after she froze to death. Then there is the beacon data. Watch the GPS track from another victim's personal locator. The signal cuts out entirely for exactly 2 hours, in weather well within the battery's operating limits. When it reconnects, the signal is 7 kilometers away. To explain how a frozen body travels 7 kilometers in a 2-hour blackout, Aiko documented the physical ground. On the night she vanished, she photographed strange parallel indentations pressed deep into the snowpack near the recovery sites. They were sled tracks. These hikers didn't just wander and die. The topographic anomalies and the presence of sled tracks suggest they were deliberately transported across the mountain post-mortem. The search for Aiko fell to a Tokyo homicide detective named Soji Kitagawa. To find her, he had to trace the long bureaucratic threads connecting the remote wilderness back to the city's institutions. Digging into the old Nagano prefectural police files, Kitagawa found a manual override. A subordinate officer had recorded finding a body in a highly specific grid square. His superior, a police chief named Hayashi, manually erased that coordinate and replaced it with a location that fit the accidental death narrative. But Chief Hayashi hadn't just moved a coordinate. Kitagawa found evidence of a ghost in the system, an unrecorded 8th victim, a woman who died on the mountain months before the official tally began, whose autopsy never entered the public record. To see why, we have to look at this municipal family registry. This is the entry for Hayashi Natsuko, stamped inactive. The erased 8th victim was the police chief's own daughter. The Nagano police were executing a containment protocol. To protect the secret on that plateau, a chief inspector was willing to erase the records of his own daughter's death. This cross-section of Mount Shironuma reveals that secret's geography. Beneath the rock lies a massive network of volcanic lava tubes. In 1999, the military sealed these tubes with concrete, power conduits, and disguised surface doors, building a classified nuclear-hardened bunker. The hikers never knew it was there, but occasionally one would wander too close to a hidden ventilation shaft. When they did, a rogue civilian security contractor assigned to the bunker would intercept them, let the elements take over, and drag their bodies miles away. It ensured search and rescue teams never focused their grids near the facility's perimeter. Kitagawa led a tactical police raid on an access door hidden in the eastern rock face. They arrested the contractor in the tunnels. Deep inside the network, they found Aiko Yanase. She had been kept alive in a windowless room for 3 months. The victims were collateral damage of geographic proximity. They died because they stepped into the operational perimeter of a state secret. The rescue of a captive student and a full confession from a rogue contractor should have triggered a sprawling public reckoning. Instead, the Ministry of Defense stepped in. They invoked immediate national security provisions, classifying the bunker's existence and legally blinding any further public investigation. The application of justice was strictly compartmentalized. The civilian contractor took a singular fall and went to prison. The police chief died of heart failure before he could face charges. And the military apparatus that authorized the black site remained completely immune. When an institution's survival is threatened by the truth, it leverages the full weight of the law to bury it. Today, the families of the victims are legally barred from pursuing civil lawsuits against the government. Aiko's published thesis exists with 43 pages permanently blacked out. And beneath the rock and snow, the Shironuma installation is still fully operational. 7 people were sacrificed to maintain a secure line of communication. It leaves a quiet, uncomfortable question about the wilderness around us. How many natural tragedies are actually the quiet machinery of government secrets, working exactly as intended?